Hey, thanks for dropping by to the Planners on Purpose podcast, created by Naomi Tucker, CMP. Now, this space is for the event planners to encourage and empower you so that you can fully live your life on purpose. So before we dig in, please take a moment to subscribe so you get future shows. Now, here she comes, your host, Naomi.
Systems, process, and people. Those are three pillars that we want to look at when we are problem solving for events, for business, for just about anything. And that's what we're going to be talking about on today's podcast. But before I get started, let me introduce myself. My name is Naomi Tucker. I'm a business strategist and burnout prevention coach, empowering you to stress less and live more, and do that through self-discovery and inviting more ease into your life while doing what you love. And I wanted to talk today about solving problems and doing that by way of looking at your systems, your people, and your processes. Because normally when you are solving problems in business and even solving problems in the event planning world, these three pillars make it super helpful for you to narrow down what is going wrong and being able to take corrective action. So I wanted to go through each of these, give you probably an example to help you to understand, and then invite you to respond on what you see or how you see these could work for you in your business. And typically when we are working with problems, it's easy to work through systems, process, and people first, because systems really are the last thing that's built. And so before you jump to people, it's nice to do your cross-checking through your systems, making sure that those are all working, then your process, then your people. So it's a very unique way to approach problems, but it also will help you to give your people the benefit of the doubt that they're doing what they need to do in order to make your events successful. So first, we'll talk a little bit about systems. So systems typically are the interconnected mechanism in which we work. They're typically a framework. It doesn't always mean that they're technology. Normally, when we think of systems, we think of technology, but it doesn't always have to be. But it's that overall framework in which the work is completed. And in event planning or in our businesses, we have different systems in the way we work. We have systems for payroll, for instance. We have different systems for how we onboard people. And then you might have systems for how you initiate and respond to requests to have a new meeting being planned with your team or with your company. So, for example, when we talk about systems, let's say you do have a new meeting that comes in to your team and they are supposed to be responding and working on it. However, let's say this request comes through a system or a tool or goes through that process that you need to have it go through for you to work on it. However, let's just say a stakeholder tells you that they entered this new meeting into whatever system you had, and they did not get a response from you or from your people on your team. Now, instead of jumping to the person or saying that the process is not working, perhaps you might need to explore the reason why you never got their request. So this would mean checking the systems first before we actually go down to, Susie wasn't doing her job. Upon further look, perhaps you see there was a glitch. There was a field perhaps that wasn't filled out, but somehow the form never came to you. That might be a system issue. So you might want to just figure out how you can prevent that from happening in the future. That might mean working with the system administrators. That might mean trying to understand why the actual form never got to you. But whatever it is, ensure that you know why the problem occurred and how you can actually fix it, because we have identified that it's more of a system challenge and not necessarily a people or a process challenge. So let's move on to the next pillar. Our next pillar would be process. And we can even take this same scenario. Let's say you checked everything in the system And the new meeting did come through. So that's wonderful. It did come through. You do have it. However, let's say you see it sitting there and it's been there for 4 days. However, your process by which everyone in your area or department works in, they have to respond within 2 days. And so this indicates that it could be a process or a people problem. However, after speaking, let's say, to that person that was supposed to actually respond to it, you find out that they said they were told that they should respond in a week, not 2 days. So they were just waiting to be able to respond. Well, this might mean that there's a fault in the process somewhere. And it might sound like it's a training issue. That person perhaps wasn't trained to what the actual standard was. And in that case, a refresher or reminder, or actually pointing that person back to the resource, which hopefully would be like a standard operating procedure or some type of document that outlines what the process is, would be helpful. However, if this is like a new problem, and we can even say perhaps there's a new problem that's occurring, you might want to make sure that you are putting in a standard operating procedure in place if there isn't one that's written up for this type of scenario. That way everyone knows what to do when, let's say, a meeting request does come in this case. So that would indicate that it would be a process issue, and then how you would respond to the process. Typically, it's trainings, refreshers, reminders. Perhaps it's bringing it up in a group meeting just so that everybody's on the same page to what that process is, and then obviously circling back to the client to let them know the reason why it happened and ensuring that it won't happen again in the future. So that's the process. Now, we can use the same scenario as we go into people. And if we change it slightly, let's say that same person that was supposed to respond to this meeting request, perhaps they just didn't respond. They knew exactly how many days they need to respond in. However, the response wasn't made. So this may mean, of course, you might want to remind the person of what the standard would be. However, there might be some additional correction that might be needed as well. Some other cues to look out for is that if the problem is frequently reoccurring, if you're not seeing any improvement with that person, and let's say you're also getting complaints not only from stakeholders but from other people in the department, that could indicate that there could be a people issue. Especially when you get others complaining there's not any improvement, you want to make sure that you're taking a more corrective action with that person. And that could mean just having a specific conversation with that person about what you have observed, what others have observed, and tell them exactly what they need to do in order to correct the issue. And then hold them accountable to whatever course or whatever turnaround that you would like to see them have. With a people issue, sometimes, hopefully, things just turn around and this person is doing what they need to do. However, sometimes it might have to take more corrective action. There might be situations where you might have to do whatever, let's say, your business or your HR or employer asks for you to do when a situation like this does occur. But that can also be writing them up or up to and including termination, which we don't ever want. However, that's kind of the process in which things do go when it gets down to a people issue, which means, as you can probably see, you don't want to get it down to a people issue and having to get down to that corrective action if you can help it. And you don't want to preemptively jump to that conclusion. So it's nice to be able to kind of look at your systems first, make sure everything is good there. Look at your process to make sure the process is being followed. If not, do reminders. And if that is not working, then let's work on the person and then do what we need to do there to ensure that person is equipped to do what they need to do. And if not, take those additional steps. I hope this was helpful for you. I hope that this little tool of systems, process, and people definitely can help you as you are solving problems in event planning spaces or in your business. Thank you so much for listening, and stay on purpose.
Well, that wraps it up for this episode. If If you enjoyed the conversation, hit the like button and tell us how much you enjoyed the show by leaving a message in the comments. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.